Hello everyone, I'm Dan the Cineman and welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to talk about Chloé Zhao's 2025 release Hamnet, starring Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal. Chloé Zhao's Hamnet is a historical fiction which is based on the novel of the same name by Maggie O'Farrell. Hamnet reimagines or fills in the gaps, if you will, fictionally, of William Shakespeare and the Shakespeare family's life. It paints a picture of Shakespeare's possible inspiration for writing his masterpiece Hamlet, and it's a tale of love, loss, grieving, mourning, as well as some themes of naturism and, especially towards the end, an exploration of the healing power of art. Unfortunately, this film only got a UK release in the new year, and as of recording, I watched it last night, which was the 1st of February. I believe it's still got a few days left of its UK theatrical release, so if I have convinced you by the end of the spoiler-free section to go and see this film, hopefully you'll still have the chance to do so. Just in case anyone's new around here, what I do with my videos is I do a spoiler-free and a spoiler-full section to benefit both the viewers who haven't seen the film and want to know people's general thoughts and sort of a recommendation based on the generalization, and then the spoiler-full section to benefit the people who have viewed the film and want to know if other people picked up on the same themes as them, had the same thoughts, found the same things good, found different things good, and found the same things bad, or found different things bad. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into my spoiler-free and spoiler-full thoughts on Chloé Zhao's 2025 release, Hamnet. Just my usual quick disclaimer, through this video I am going to use images. I will try and find images that are in the public domain, but where I cannot do this, I will give credit where credit is due in the bottom corner to the image rights owner. Okay, my spoiler-free thoughts on Chloé Zhao's Hamnet. I thought it was very, very good. I left this a little bit late because I didn't think it would be for me. Like I alluded to earlier, it was released in the UK in the new year. I think it hit my local cinema on the 16th of Jan. But like I said, as of recording, I watched it last night, which was the 1st of Feb. And yeah, I'm definitely glad I did. I really enjoyed this. And here's the Letterboxd review. So I gave it 4.5 stars, and I said, utterly moving portrayal of love and loss, grief, mourning, and eventual acceptance, both crushing and beautiful. Jessie Buckley will deservingly take home that Best Actress, but the Paul Mescal snub is shameful. When On the Nature of Daylight started playing, oh boy, the tears were close to flowing. In all honesty, my main motivation for going to see this film was this Jessie Buckley performance and the hype around it. I didn't want to miss out on such an apparent brilliant performance, obviously with the Oscar nom as well. I always try and see most of, if not all of at least the the performances Oscars. And yeah, she's so deserving of that nom. Like I said, I wasn't convinced this film was going to be for me. I'm not really much of a Shakespeare guy. I'm not that familiar with his works. But yeah, one could say that I came for the Jessie Buckley performance and I stayed for, well, the amazing Jessie Buckley performance, as well as some other things. With one of said things being Chloé Zhao's directing. I'd never seen a Zhao film before. This was my first foray into her filmography. And yeah, I can already tell that she's got the juice to be a very good director. Her directing was brilliant throughout, with the themes of naturism that I mentioned earlier, that I believe are sort of her signature themes coming into play right at the start. But her directing for me really came into the frame in some scenes at the end of the film or towards the end of the film that I'll touch on in the spoiler full section. But just generally, yeah, her directing here is fantastic. Her shot selection as well. The film looks gorgeous. I am surprised it didn't get nominated for Best Cinematography, because some of the shots, again, I'll go specific in the spoiler full section, were just brilliant. I do think she'll have a sniff actually at that Best Director Oscar. Coming into this, I thought no way is Paul Thomas Anderson going to be dethroned in my eyes for that Oscar. But while I still think he does ultimately deserve it, I wouldn't be I wouldn't be upset if Chloé Zhao got the nod, because yeah, this was brilliant. Shifting back to the acting aspect, it was just fantastic throughout. But Jessie Buckley, I mean, Jesus Christ, it's difficult to not be reactionary when we see performances like this, especially around the Academy Award times. But at the same time, we shouldn't not give recent performances their flowers just because we're scared of being reactionary. This performance from Jessie Buckley is generational. She's so good. I always enjoy creatives giving their opinion on fellow creatives, apart from when it's Quentin Tarantino. And I saw Bradley Cooper give Jessie Buckley her flowers for this. And it was on the Joe Rogan podcast, I believe. And he said oftentimes he would forget that Jessie Buckley was performing and that she wasn't just a woman who was going through this, and I completely agree. She's just so good. You just zone out of the fact that you're watching a film and you're watching an actress do her thing, especially with such a heavy subject matter as well. I won't go into specifics again until the spoiler full section, but this was a lot to take on for someone. And yeah, Jessie Buckley was just absolutely fantastic. She will almost definitely get that Best Actress award, and it will be so deserved. Like I said earlier, she was almost the driving force for me to see this film in her entirety. And it's had a knock-on effect because I will now almost definitely be going to see Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride because Jessie Buckley has the lead there. And if it's anything like this performance, she'll be right up again for the Best Actress Oscar next year. Keeping on the topic of the acting, I mentioned in my Letterboxd review Paul Mescal, and he is brilliant here. Again, quite the heavy mantle to play William Shakespeare, but he does it really well. Quite stoic, emotionless on the surface, but sort of shows his emotions in other ways, as we'll explore in the spoiler full section. The rest of the supporting cast as well, Emily Watson, who plays Paul Mescal's character's mother, was Paul Mescal's character, as if he doesn't play William Shakespeare. But yeah, sorry, Emily Watson plays William Shakespeare's mother, and she's brilliant. She's, calm, quiet, but you can see the emotion behind her eyes, especially in some scenes, which again, we'll probably talk about later. The Jupe brothers, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Noah and Jacoby, were fantastic. So young, especially Noah. He has a very big role towards the end, and he absolutely nails it. And yeah, acting all around fantastic. The production design of this film is so good, and I do hope it gets the Oscar because it was nominated. For me, as much as I love film, for me to specifically notice aspects like production design, I feel they've got to be spectacular, and they were here. Like every time we got a shot of the scenery or a wide shot of the characters, I was taken aback by the production design, that the environments they were standing in, both forest or Elizabethan town or eventually a bigger city. Just brilliant. I really hope it brings home that Oscar nomination. The score by Max Richter is excellent and perfectly sets the mood for the film, sad but beautiful at the same time. It elevates pretty much every scene that the score is featured in. His piece of music, On the Nature of Daylight, every time I hear it, it really moves me. Obviously, it's featured in Arrival, which is a fantastic film by Denis Villeneuve, and when it kicks in here, boy, like I said in my Letterboxd review, it's just so powerful, so beautiful, sad but beautiful at the same time, and yeah, it's just an amazing piece of music. I would say it deserves that Oscar nom that it got for Best Original Score. I've not seen Frankenstein yet, but I was quite sad that Marty Supreme's score by Daniel Lopatin didn't get nominated. I talk in my Marty Supreme video about how much I love Daniel Lopatin's score. It adds to the themes of the film and it makes every scene, especially the ping pong scenes, you're locked in. So I was sad that it didn't get the nom. I'd probably say they're quite equal, the Hamnet and the Marty Supreme score. I've not seen Frankenstein, so obviously I can't comment on that yet. The Bergoni one was a bit of a surprise. It was quite striking, but I'm not sure it was as impactful as the score here or for Marty Supreme for me. Discussion around the best original score Oscar is for me a moot point anyway, because I think Ludwig Göransson should have it in the bag for Sinners, and I would be very surprised and also disappointed if he doesn't pick that up. I mentioned in my Sinners video how much I enjoy that score and how much it means to me. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on Max Richter's score because it was fantastic here. To wrap up my thoughts on Chloé Zhao's 2025 film Hamnet, I thought it was a beautiful portrayal of love and loss. It's fantastically directed with brilliant performances all around, but a genuine all-timer lead performance from Jessie Buckley. She is so good. I can't talk enough about it. Similar to Timothée Chalamet's Oscar, that'll do all the talking that I could do about this performance as much as I want to talk about it. You know, she is just so good. Like I said, often you'd forget that she was acting. You just think she was a woman going through these things that her character is going through. She's just completely captivating, and yeah, amazing production design. If this sounds like a bit of you, go and check this film out. Once again, I'll wax lyrical about how good last year was for cinema 2025 because I feel like no one else is. I think I saw a British GQ magazine article about how it was the best year for film in a decade, and I would agree with that. And I've not even seen some of the big hitters still, like Sentimental Value, Frankenstein, If I Had Legs I'd Kick You, No Other Choice. I've not seen those, but the quality of the films that I have seen, just fantastic year for the art form, and yeah, can't hopefully 2026 is the same. Okay, let's talk specifics. These won't necessarily be spoilers in the fact that, you know, if I told you about them before you've seen the film, I've ruined the film for you. But they are elements of the film that I think are best stumbled upon naturally and, you know, not pointed out to you beforehand. So if you haven't seen the film and are still here, I would recommend switching off now and hopefully coming back to me once you have seen the film. Obviously, the crux of the film is the death of Hamnet, and it was always sort of a weight bearing over my shoulders watching the first section of the film, thinking, how are they going to do this? And the death scene of his is so good on every single level. The acting from everyone involved is amazing. The directing from Chloé Zhao, I mentioned earlier about specific scenes where she really showed her talent for me in this film. This is the main one. You know, the choice of how they were going to set it out. Obviously, I've not read the book, so I'm not sure if it's a direct correlation to the book, but even still, you know, the way she frames it, the way it's acted, oh, it was just fantastic. I was heartbroken for Hamnet, the way he was saying, I'll be brave, you know, we can trick death, I'll take his place. And then after the fact, we see him through this black veil, and then he looks up and he sees the hawk that they lost earlier. Oh my god, beautiful moment, and also helps you to understand exactly what's, you know, it serves as that plot device that we know what's happened. We know he's in the afterlife, and it's also that callback to the loss that they had before as a family. Yeah, this was just absolutely brilliant. Just staying on Hamnet's character, there was a shot of when his dad, William Shakespeare, is saying goodbye to him that ties in with two things I mentioned earlier, both the production design and the cinematography. It's a wide shot and it's on a corner. And it's when the whole family is saying goodbye to Will when he's going back to London, but Hamlet sort of lingers, and then he runs back, and Will is remaining, you know, just before he sets off. And oh my god, it's so gorgeous. Both the shot and the production set of that Elizabethan Shakespearean town. It was, I think that was my second favourite shot of the film after one that we'll discuss shortly. After Agnes and Bartholomew enter the theatre, this film really gets to the sort of narrative and thematical crux of what it's trying to get across. As good as the Hamnet death scene is, I think this is where it really comes together. It's a brilliant emotional climax, and yeah, just ties everything together brilliantly. Again, the production design of the actual theatre is gorgeous. Like I said before, it takes a lot for me to notice these things as much as I enjoy every aspect of cinema. And yeah, this stood out to me as soon as we see it for the first time. And then yeah, the acting, Jessie Buckley in this sequence again. I'm not quite sure I could say this is the best part of her performance, but when she touches Hamlet's hand Oh my God, it's just so powerful. You know, she goes in and through the start of the play, she's saying, "What's this got to do with my son?" She's not understanding why Will could, expose their sort of trauma to the world. But as it goes through, and as we see Noah Jupe's Hamlet, as we see his character's story play out, she comes to grips with it and understands that their son has been immortalized through art. And yeah, that was just beautiful to see. Noah Jupe was very good as Hamlet. As good as he was, I do feel again in his scenes, I was just waiting for the camera to cut back to Jessie Buckley and to show her reaction, her emotional, performance. It's sort of over. Not that that's a shortcoming of Noah Jupe's performance. For me, it's more of a compliment to Jessie Buckley. I wanted to see as much as her in this character as I could. And yeah, that shot of her touching Hamlet's hand and then the rest of the theatre doing the same thing. Wow, that was the best shot of the film and it perfectly ties in with the themes, the healing power of art and how trauma shared is trauma halved, as the old saying goes. And she's sort of experiencing everyone else experience her trauma, but they don't know it's hers. And yeah, that weight is lifted off her shoulders, and she eventually sees Hamnet turn and go through the door of the stage, and she lets out a laugh and smiles, showing acceptance. And yeah, the healing power of art, just brilliant. The specific part of Paul Mescal's performance that stands out for me was when he played Hamlet's dad, the ghost of the king in the play Hamlet. This is when Jessie Buckley sort of realizes what Will is trying to do. I feel like, they have that argument where he wasn't there for Hamnet's death, and I feel like obviously she uses it against him, but she subconsciously feels that he doesn't feel the same grief that she does because he wasn't there. But this is obviously Will showing Agnes that he was just as impacted as she was, and there's things that he wishes he could have said to Hamnet before he lost him. Obviously, in the play, it's the other way round, and Hamlet's dad dies, and it's Paul Mescal saying the words that he wishes to say to Hamlet before he himself died. Obviously, in the rest of the film, it's the other way around. But yeah, it sort of drives home to Agnes's character that he was grieving all along. It's a beautiful portrayal of two people grieving the same person, almost at different distances. It's got similar parallels to one of my favourite TV shows of all time, The Bear, where Carmy and Rich mourn the loss of their cousin at different stages, and they can't get to grips with the other and how the other is processing the same loss. The loss of Hamnet tears Agnes and Will apart, and then the play brings them back together. In that aspect, it is quite the love letter to art. Obviously, the art form in question is theatre, but it extends to all forms of art and the healing power that they have. I saw one of my favourite letterbox users, Movie Matt K, say the same thing in his review. He said, about the healing power of art. He also runs one of the best film Instagram accounts. It's called The Film Memes. Check that out. It makes me laugh every time he uploads. The last thing I wanted to pick up on is that metaphor that Will uses for Orpheus and Eurydice. Now, recently I've really been into Greek mythology, so I knew the story before he, explained it to Agnes, but it was a beautiful moment for both those characters, and obviously the metaphor of the story ties in with their story as well, the story of Agnes and Will. So when they're getting married, Agnes says, "Look at me," to Will, and then he looks at her, obviously paralleling the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, where Orpheus turns around, looks at Eurydice, and tragedy ensues. Same thing here. After Will looks at Agnes, they have their own tragedy where they lose Hamnet and they're driven apart, paralleling the tragedy that was to come after Orpheus looked at Eurydice. The next time Agnes says, "Look at me," is when she's realised what Will is trying to do with his play, and then Will looks at him, and it's almost that closed circle. They're reconnecting through the tale of Orpheus and Eurydice, and then we see Hamnet move on, and we see Jessie Buckley's Agnes, laugh for the first time since the tragic loss of Hamnet. And yeah, it was just a nice full circle moment tying back to that metaphor. Yeah, beautiful. I saw that insight from a Reddit user, Esther Edna. I'll link it in the description. I was doing the same thing that I'm sure we all do after seeing a film, searching the web for other people's thoughts, what other people picked up on. And yeah, I found this beautiful insight and just thought it was brilliant and very applicable. Totally agreed with it. So yeah, that was brilliant. To wrap up my spoiler full and also just my general thoughts on this film, I thought it was beautiful, it was crushing, it yeah, hit a lot of themes, like I said, grief, mourning, but also, accepting, moving on with those ties of being at one with nature, as well as, Greek mythology, and then finishing with the healing power of art. It was just beautiful. I'm very happy I went to see it. Like I said, main motivation was Jessie Buckley, but thank God she was so good and she made me go and see it because the rest of the film is just superb. If I was going to pick a highlight, it would be a toss up between that shot of Agnes touching Hamlet's hand and the rest of the theatre doing the same, and the actual death of Hamnet. They were two excellently directed, excellently executed scenes, performed brilliantly and in a backdrop of the most gorgeous, set design, production design that I've seen in a long time. Yeah, Chloé Zhao's Hamlet's definitely worth your time and worth your money. If you can, check it out in the cinema. If you can't, wait for that Blu-ray release and purchase it then. Or, if it comes to any streaming service anytime soon, check it out. Yeah, brilliant. Anyway, guys, those are my spoiler-free and spoiler-full thoughts on Chloé Zhao's Hamnet 2025. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you at the movies.